Oh, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Sunday, it's 8 p.m., and I said I'd be here to do the Doctor Who review live, and here I am again. Before I get into talking about this episode, there's a couple of things I want to address. Um, just a couple of small things quickly before getting into talking about Doctor Who. Bon Jovi. Oh, Chris. Um, there's a couple of things I want to get into talking about before we get talking about the episode, and that is there's a couple of mistakes that I've made on my part when I've been talking about the show, because I think Doctor Who fans do it in general, and that is that sometimes things get put onto the showrunner, Chris Chibnall, and it's actually not his fault. So, and in particular, what I'm referring to here is the fact of the Christmas special, or lack of Christmas special. And the reason why I bring it up is because I said that, it's probably a mistake that Chris Chibnall isn't going to do a Christmas special, that he's going to do a New Year's Day one instead. The thing is, though, it's a bit of a rash statement to make, because actually it's not Chris Chibnall's choice whether there's a Christmas special or not. Now, he could have fought his position and said, look, we've always done the Christmas special ever since the series come back. But actually, the decision as to where the show gets scheduled on Christmas is down to a guy named Piers Wenger. And he is the head of BBC Drama, and he's the guy who decides what shows go where. So if Chris Chibnall said, no, there's no Christmas special, and Piers Wenger said, yes, there is, mate, there would be a Christmas special. At the same time, if he says there's no Christmas special, we're going to bump it to New Year's, then that's what happens. Now, like I said, it could have been, that Chibnall could have fought his position and actually fought for it, but actually you can kind of see the guy's point of view, whereby the show has been so late scheduled that an extra week gives him an extra week to get another episode out. So, not everything is on Chris Chibnall. He doesn't... Doctor Who, we get wound up and sucked into this universe and into this way of thinking that somehow Doctor Who, the people that make Doctor Who have some sort of say in what goes on at the BBC. And, there might be some... What probably happened was there was probably a meeting. They probably had a sit-down lunch or something. Piers Wenger and Chris Chibnall probably had a lunch and just hashed it out quickly. But overall, you can't blame Chris Chibnall for everything. Every action that happens with Doctor Who isn't necessarily correct, because there is somebody above him. So that's that. I want to get into talking about this episode. Doctor Who, Series 11, Episode 9, It Takes You Away. This was a slugfest. As much as I loved last week's episode, and look, last week's episode had a lot of flaws, right? Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a clean sweep of an episode. There were several flaws in character terms, with the fact the witches, or what were they called, Murtocs or something, knocked everybody out and then afterwards threatened to kill him. That doesn't make any logical sense. But it was such a knees up, fun run around episode that it just carried you along. This episode didn't. This episode didn't sweep up at all. So the TARDIS lands in Norway, and they come across this cabin in the woods, and it's all boarded up, and somebody's on the inside. They can see that. They break in. The Doctor sonics the door, clearly, because there are no other means of opening doors these days. If you haven't got a sonic screwdriver, I have to use a sonic screwdriver to come in through my own door, because things don't work these days. So the door was locked. Okay, fair enough. They get inside, and they find a little girl, a blind girl named Hane. Now, I've had to write their name down because they kept pronouncing her name differently throughout the episode. Like, it's spelt Hanne, which to me is Anne with a H, so it's Anne. Yeah, it was Hanne, it was Hanny, it was Annie, it changed every time somebody pronounced it. So they get inside, they start asking about her father and stuff like that, and literally, like not a lot happens for the next 30 minutes. Like really not much. Definitely a strange one. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell if this episode was overly convoluted or just not enough filler for the episode. And I like a slow-moving sci-fi. I like my, Blade Runners and 2001s, and I like it when it's a little bit more moody and a little bit more slow-paced. Not everything has to go a mile a minute. Now, the thing is, this episode was written by Ed Hine, and it was co-written by Joy Wilkinson as well. So there were two people writing this episode, and it was directed by Jamie Childs. And there were nice little bits in this episode, but the overall wasn't so great. It wasn't so grand. Like, there was the nice little moment of Graham pulling a sandwich out of his jacket. It was a great one. Wayne Lazenby's here. Hello, Wayne. Yeah, Graham pulling a sandwich out of his jacket was a good moment. And it was these nice little bits. You had Yaz, which referred to the fact that she's had training as a police officer. I wish we could see her as a police officer, because they keep mentioning little bits here or there. This is going to be spoiler heavy, Wayne. If you haven't seen Doctor Who yet, this is going to be spoiler heavy. Sorry, pal, but yeah. And we got Ryan, which I thought was a good moment, actually. The moment with Ryan was a great one at the start, whereby the Doctor is Dr. Graham, Ryan, and Hanne are talking with Hanne, and they mentioning the fact that her dad's disappeared, and Ryan says, maybe he's run off. And I thought that was a really good moment from Ryan, because, like, why wouldn't Ryan think that? That's what happened to him. So I thought that was a really good moment. You don't want to watch. Well, that's up to you, Wayne. I mean, like, I would say that with this episode, this was a real slow mover. It was a bit of a, for me, I thought this episode was a bit of a slugfest to get through from the get-go, because it just didn't move along, and nothing about this episode really moved along until it got to like 7 p.m. and then when things started to ramp up a little bit towards the end, that's when it started to kick in a little bit. The music of the episode was okay. Hanne had her own theme, which is this sort of piano riff, which was like ding 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 ding, and it just like there's a track by Muse that it reminded me of, and I can't remember what it was, but as for the rest of the music in the episode, it was just doing bizarre sounds. I think the sound effects were taking more of a stage in this episode than the actual music. I work for the cinema, and some of the stuff coming out not so good. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to Mary Poppins, so that's a bonus. I am looking forward to that. Let's have a look. Yeah, so Hanne was blind, and I didn't mind that. I thought it was good. I thought it was a nice little twist to sort of actually we acknowledge the fact that there are more than just able-bodied people in the world. And the fact that she was in the house all alone by herself. Yeah, I mean, I would have opened this show differently. let's get through the episode. Okay, by the way, I would have opened this show differently. I really would have opened this show differently. First of all, the show's called It Takes You Away. Nobody got taken away. Like, somebody was gone, but they were already taken away. There was nobody actually taken away. If I was going to do this episode, I would have done it a little bit more like sort of kind of like Evil Dead, or whereby they've got a couple of people in the cabin, and I would have opened it with somebody screaming, whatever, and going missing, and then another person screaming and going missing, but somebody, something, and then I would have had the TARDIS land. Because I would have actually seen the cabin first without any of the boarding on it. I would have actually done it so that the cabin was pristine before you see it, and then you see it with all the boards up. That's how I would have started this episode. Was when the TARDIS lands, they see it with all the boards up. It's like, oh, now you know something's wrong. Then we got the whole. It takes you away on a mobility scooter. Well, you one without charge. It's just gravity downhill. Am I the only one? Am I the only one really that when they walked in through the alternate universe, when they stepped into the other cabin, was I the only one expecting to see William Shatner making eggs? There was a lot going on in this, and at the same time, absolutely nothing happened. Yeah, we had Yaz with the whole reverse the polarity thing, which is, these little callbacks. You had Ribbons. Why were you watching Doctor Who when you should be listening to Chimes of Midnight? Why was I watching Doctor Who when you should be listening to Chimes of Midnight? Because it's very difficult to review a show if you don't watch it first. I mean, that's just generally how it works. Yeah, but it's good. It's good that you're here. William Shatner liked the mirror camera work. I mean, look, there's some nice things that they did here. I thought the design work for the inside of the cabin looked really sharp. It looked like a really modern cabin, and it looked really nice. And particularly the moment whereby everybody else had gone, and there was just the Doctor there, and you had this beam of light just bursting through the slats of wood. They done some good stuff, production value wise. We can't knock them production value wise until the end. And that's something I'm going to get around to. This was a VFX light episode where, again, there was no effects. There was no real. There was no monster. It was just sound. So, but they didn't play on the fact that the sound was what was scaring people. Like, sound is a powerful thing. So sound makes you believe what's happening in a scene, but they didn't play on the fact that that's all that was happening. They didn't do. You didn't hear screams and then somebody had disappeared, or hear this noise happen. And when Graham heard the sound and turned around and his reflection had gone in the mirror, I thought we were in for some real sort of particularly when the episode's called It Takes You Away. I was expecting Graham to have been the person taken away. I was expecting this episode to have split the companions somehow. And I was expecting it to happen in that room. I was expecting the room to be the thing, not the mirror. Which I would have thought would have been great, that if all the companions had entered this room and one by one they ended up just disappearing into different pockets. I would have thought that might have been a little bit more interesting. But no, that wasn't the case. Then we had the appearance of this week's guest character, Ribbons of the Seven Stomachs. It was played by, and I have got it written down here somewhere, Ribbons played by was Kevin, where have I written it? I have written it down. Kevin I've got it right whereby there. Kevin Eldon, most commonly known for playing probably these days, probably Penfold from Danger Mouse. But I mean, he's a working actor. I think most people internationally would know him from Hot Fuzz. But he's a common working actor. He works continuously. He's always, whether it's bit parts or supporting cast. This character was just weird. Like, it was Kevin Eldon. He reminded me so much of Mr. Razor. It was just weird. It was just odd watching him perform. I don't know whether or not he had enough time to work on the character or what, but it was a little bit peculiar what he was doing. And like I said, it did remind me of Mr. Razor. And then we had killer moths, piranha moths. Like, this episode was just boxed out, wasn't it? Like, any time somebody can come up with something weird, they just put it in this episode, in this... What was it called? It was called the anti-zone, wasn't it? This buffer zone between two universes that the Doctor has never seen anything so brilliant and wonderful. And do you remember the three Doctors with Omega and his own universe? Remember that bit? I mean, it does. I'm just pointing out here that this has happened. This isn't the first time the Doctor has done this and dealt with this sort of thing. Now we've got the Creature of the Week. Ooh. And the Creature of the Week was called the... Oh, hell. My notes are all over the place with this episode, honestly. What were they called? Oh, geez. Somebody help me out in the chat. I've got it written down here somewhere. No. I wrote it down deliberately because I couldn't remember what the hell it was called. Never mind. It was... Oh, Solitrack. Or Solitac. This was just... So I'm supposed to be afraid of a creature that we don't see, that doesn't take people away in an episode called It Takes You Away, that is like a Time Lord fairy tale that the Doctor suddenly becomes scared. So I should become scared because the Doctor is scared? Is that what is supposed to happen here? Like, nobody died in this episode, right? There was a complete lack of death. It was like Ribbons died, but he was a token character, and he was killed by piranha moths. So he was a out for his own gain kind of character. So there was a complete disconnect with this guy anyway. And particularly, here's the thing, right? When Ribbons had the knife to Graham's throat, why didn't Yaz step in? Like, I get it that she might not be a fully, a veteran police officer. She might still be in a sort of rookie stage, but surely she's had some sort of, if she's had training dealing with the public, she's had some sort of training in dealing with a situation like this, right? So, I would imagine that's one of the things, the first thing that a police officer would teach you is how to deal with this sort of situation. If somebody gets held hostage. So we've got that, and then, like I said, the thing I really wanted to talk about, and that I said I was going to shove to the back end of this. Holy crap, the frog. What the bloody hell was that? Like, what in the bejesusing? It didn't even look. They actually used a VFX budget here to make the damn frog blink, but it looked like they would have been better off having a Kermit the Frog puppet. Attack of the Kermit the Frog puppets. That would have been better. Because this this static lump that was just that, my friend, was proper old school Doctor Who prop. It wasn't even that, because they would have dimmed the lights. They would have put it in the dark. It would have been in the shadows. They would have, if they couldn't show it to its full effect, they would have tried hiding it in some other form, in some other way. Like later on when they were having these monsters and in old school Doctor Who, they would step them out into broad daylight, and that was due to the fact that they had complaints from the BBC saying we can't see what's going on. So, and that's when they flat lit everything in Doctor Who. But as for if this had been a John Pertwee era effect, that would have been a hand puppet, no doubt. That would have been somebody doing this. But that oh my God, a rubber frog on a chair, that they couldn't lip sync. I mean, here's a fun fact for you. If you can't make the prop at that size, then why not build it bigger so it can be articulated? Like, if you made it 2 or 3 times the size, why not make it like this big so it can be articulated? Because you never saw the Doctor and the frog the Doctor didn't pick up the frog. It was completely shot in sort of lock off. And then they blew a VFX budget to make the bloody rubber thing blink. Oh, good grief. I mean, the justification for this is, this is another universe, so this could be, this is what this thing looks like. I'm just saying it looked crap. 2018 budget. They can make up a ting, but they can't make a bloody frog. Shocking. It was shocking, yeah, you're right. It was absolutely shocking. And so the episode ends up wrapping as the frog sends everybody back because the universe is collapsing, and the frog is left alone. And am I supposed to feel bad here? Because I'm really, I think this episode could be described best by Jodie Whittaker, who in the episode said 6.5, maybe 7. Well, I think that's a bit ambitious. At least it had a chair. Yeah, yeah, but the chair was less wooden than the frog. Oh God, I don't. Like, as much as I loved last week's episode, and I did, I fully really loved last week's episode, and I believe this was the episode that actually got flipped around. I believe episode 4 and episode 9 were actually flipped, so that episode 4 and 9 are now in the order that they were in, but I believe this episode was originally going to be there, and 4 was going to be tail end in it. So what was that? That would have been the Saranga conundrum, right? I think they should have put this one earlier. I can understand why they didn't, though. I mean, if that's the level of effect they had with that frog, I can understand why they would shift it to this end of the season. This was not a good episode to end. We've got one more episode left this season, and this episode was. I mean, they give us the whole Graham Grandad bit, which to me is like okay. So if we passed that moment now, so next week are we saying goodbye to Graham, or so I'm. I know I'm rambling here, but I'm trying to pull something out of this episode that I really really liked, and I just can't. This was a slow, methodical mess of an episode. Again, there were nice little character bits, but nothing that stood out. I mean, even the moment with Graham and Grace. I mean, they brought back Sharon D. Clark for this, for that nice scene together, where they're in the Nexus. This was an amalgam story, wasn't it? This was bits cobbled from everywhere. This was Cabin in the Woods. This was Evil Dead. This was none of those things. This was Star Trek Generations. There was no real villain. Nobody dies except for a token character who gets killed by piranha moths. It just lacked excitement, didn't it? It was thoroughly unexciting. You're being told that if this universe collides with ours, it'll destroy it. And they put so much gobbledygook rubbish into this story. Oh dear God. These two, I don't understand how they sat down through the read-through of this episode. I don't know how they did it. It was difficult to watch. Imagine having to sit down in the studio in where they have the read-throughs, reading through this script and thinking, and nobody saying, shouldn't something be happening here? Shouldn't something be going on? Like I would imagine if somebody had been abducted earlier on, like I said, if Graham had been in that room and when he heard that sound and turned on and not seen his reflection, if he had been abducted, I think it would, from everybody else's point of view, oh yes, the audience would have known that Graham was all right, but the rest of the companions wouldn't. So to keep investigating, and again, I thought it was a bit odd that Hannah slammed the door in Ryan's head and to sort of escape through the mirror. I mean, I don't know why. Why? There were so many whys. And then again, when we get the answer, then it's a lonely, conscious universe. Oh, good grief. I don't really, unless you've got something else to add on this episode, I need to call this one quits. Because there's really nothing to talk about. The VFX budget was, they had the shimmering effect on the mirror, and when she had her hands in their hands, were like, but it photographed well, it looked nice. The acting was okay. The girl who played Harney, this is probably only her second job, I believe. Yeah, again, the granddad bit was nice, but that tells me that Graham ain't hanging around anymore because it's happened now. Because I think that's what this character's now got closure, and that's a character writing trope that you need to be wary of. You know, he's been longing for Ryan to call him granddad, and now it's happened. It's one of those things that a writer would go, okay, so this story's wrapped up. So that's a bit worrying because I don't want to see Ryan go. If Yaz popped off, that'd be okay for me. That'd be alright. I'd be okay with that. But Graham, no, I don't see Graham go. I don't see Ryan go. But I think we are dealing with the fact that the TARDIS is a bit crammed because again. That's the other thing as well. This week I really felt like the Doctor was taking a back seat here. Again, there were a couple of times when the Doctor was kind of getting involved. But some of the time it was a case that Graham seemed to be asking more of the questions and Ryan and the Doctor would intervene here or there. So yeah, and then when the Doctor sort of intervened more for all the sciencey bits, for all the this is what this is what that is, this is what this is. But aside from that, everybody else seemed to be asking all the sorts of questions. Great to see a Slayer T-shirt, best guest star in this episode. Oh, good grief! Yeah, but I mean, I agree. I'm not gonna disagree with that, but if you wanted a Slayer T-shirt, it should have been in a better episode, I think. So yeah, I have very little positive buzz to say about this episode. It dragged its way to 7 o'clock. It got past the 7 o'clock mark where it started wrapping up the episode. It spent the next 15 minutes kind of going through some science fiction-y gobbledygook, and then they all said goodbye, and this is not going to be a high-rated episode. This is below a 5, isn't it? This is like, if I'm gonna give something like Saranga Conundrum, if I'm gonna give, let's be honest with you, if I'm gonna give Arachnids in the UK a 6, this is under that, because at least Arachnids in the UK, you had a bit of fun with a bit of creepy crawlies, whereas this, I give it a 4 out of 10. That's not a bad score. They can walk away with their heads held high with a 4 out of 10 for this one, because that script did not hold that. I mean, you had the whole bit with Eric and Honey, and he left his daughter to go live in an alternate universe with a fake wife. Was this episode written by somebody who was a parent? Because I don't think I'd do that. You know, your partner's dead, and you're looking after your child, and I can understand the whole bit of wanting to spend time with, but wouldn't it creep you out if you saw somebody? Wouldn't you start asking questions yourself if you saw somebody that you knew was dead? And I mean, I'm just trying to think. Came as a shock when the doctor said she loved her Sonic. Not. Oh, we know she loves her Sonic. Possibly physically. Dear me. So yeah, the relationship between, I'm not so sure Eric should be looking after his daughter. I really don't think, because the TARDIS crew just swanned off at the end. And I think the TARDIS crew should have, at the end, gone, no, pal, we'll be going to child services. Trust me, you're done. That's not a good way to wrap this episode. Yeah, so I think I'm going to have to leave this there. If I'm going to give this episode a grade out of 10, I know you give it a 4. Well, let's start off with. Let's grade this episode properly, shall we? No excitement, so I'm going to take a point off there. No real music, no points there. No visual effects. That frog takes 2 points off, because it was so badly handled, and it was a thoroughly uninteresting and an original story. I can take another point off of that. That puts me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 off the 10. So yeah, 4's a good score. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. This episode of Doctor Who was bad, and I'm going to leave that there. I want to thank the people in the live stream, in the chat, for joining in. I know Wayne was here earlier, and we got Chris there, and so next week will be the final episode of Doctor Who for this season. Even though on the BBC they said, "Oh, stay tuned for a preview of our seasonal special," which they didn't show. They just showed a preview for next week. But it'll be 8 p.m. next week. We'll do that. But I've got a feeling after that, I think what I'll do is I might start doing other Doctor Who's. I might start doing other Doctor Who episodes. I might have been thinking about going back to An Unearthly Child and starting there and going through everything. But we'll do that from after. We'll see how it goes up to Christmas, because obviously Christmas is coming. But so next week I'll be here at 8 p.m. and to talk about the series finale. God, I hope it's better than this one. I genuinely do. So yeah, 8 p.m. next Sunday, and I'll see you then. See you later, guys.